okay? Clarity. Clarity refers to the absence of inclusions and blemishes, okay? So the grade and the category. Now, here's my hint. Clarity grades of flawless and internally flawless will offer the highest quality. They're also going to be by far the most expensive. So many people, most people watching this will not be able to afford them. Very, very slightly included, 1 and 2 grades are also acceptable for center stones, okay? This is where most of you are going to probably fall into based off of your budgets. So these are totally fine. You will not be able to see those inclusions. They will be too small for the naked eye. So you basically want to stick to these grades. Here, very slightly included grades are fine, again, for those smaller side stones, okay? No one's really focused on those side stones. They're not going to look very closely at them. They're really going to be, you know, when you're showing off their ring, they're really, you know, their point of view is going to go straight to that center stone, so I wouldn't worry about it. We can do the same thing for color, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So hopefully these are good tricks of the trade for you. Lower clarity does hinder light reflection and brilliance, right? So if you have too much inclusions, too many, you know, blemishes on that stone, then of course it's going to block the light from coming in and out. So even if you have a perfectly cut diamond, but the clarity is S1, you know, SI1 or I1, then the brilliance of that stone is going to be diminished considerably. Tips on clarity. Number 1, don't get stuck with a dull diamond. You'll hear me say that all the time. Stick with VVS grades are better for the center stone. VS graded stones are acceptable, but only for side diamonds. Try to avoid clarity ratings of SI or lower to avoid those dull diamonds. If costs forces you to purchase a low quality diamond, always view the diamond in multiple lighting environments, including outside sunlight. So this is where you can push back on me saying, well, why, you know, if you're telling me this, how could I possibly buy it online? You're right. If you're going to go down in quality, then you need to go to the jewelry store. I would not recommend you buying them online. And you do want to see them in different lighting sources. Remember, these stores are going to have professional lighting that will make every stone look beautiful. So you tell them, I want to walk around with the stone. I want you to follow me outside. I want to look at it outside in the natural light. You want to look at all these different lighting solutions, because the lighting they set up really does bring out the brilliance in every stone. Very misleading. Okay, so now let's go into color. Color actually refers to the absence of color, not the actual color. I know, sounds strange, but it's true. So here's what I would say. Grades D through H will offer the highest quality with really no visible color and high brilliance, okay? So these are beautiful stones. If you have a lower budget, just start off at H, right? If you have a little bit more that you can afford, you know, you might want to start looking at D through G, but just know that that's going to add a lot of cost to your diamond. I would say that many people can find a beautiful stone in the color I. There is a slight tint of yellow, but there's lots of diamonds out there that have that little tint, but you still really won't notice it with the naked eye. And there's ways of offsetting that with fluorescence, which I'm going to go to in a moment. I would say even sometimes maybe a J if it's a very good cut stone. I don't recommend it here because I think you should really be an expert such as myself to really handle the J's in a good way. But you know, it is possible to get a beautiful looking stone in the J color. Okay. So K colored diamonds and below will have visible yellow, so definitely don't go for those. And then finally, you'll see here, you have the fancy stones, you know, yellow. There's fancy stones that are really more like collectibles. You have blue, red, black diamonds, pink diamonds, yellow fancy diamonds. There's a lot of different types of fancies. Most people aren't really looking at that for their engagement rings or other diamond rings, so I don't really cover that in this webinar. Then finally, I just mentioned things about fluorescence. there's ways of using this to your advantage. The GIA will definitely tell you about fluorescence. It's something you want to look into. Obviously, focus on grades of none or faint, right? So you don't really want a lot of fluorescence. However, if you're buying an I or J stone, right, and you feel like there's there could be a little hint of yellow to it, uh, one trick here is that by adding a little bit of medium blue fluorescence, that can be acceptable because it actually offsets the yellow tinge. So it'll come through in these fiery purples and blues and very cool colors that you typically see in the brilliance of a diamond. So it's actually a way of getting a really fiery, beautiful stone. So just a tip there. Then always stay away from any yellow or orange fluorescence. So again, blue fluorescence could be acceptable, just depends on the ring, but definitely stay away from yellow or orange. It's gonna ruin the look of your ring. Okay, tips on color. Number one, D through H and sometimes I for center stones. Stay away from K or lower color grades for center diamonds. Lower color grades from side diamonds can hurt the brilliance of your stone. So even though I said cuts and everything else could be acceptable, like lower grade cut can be acceptable, here with color, you want to be careful because remember that light is not just reflecting through the center stone, there's inter-reflection happening. So reflection happening from one diamond to the other. So what you don't want is to have these yellowish stones on the side of your diamond or ring, right? And then them sort of ruining the color of your center stone. So be careful about that. And then four, don't forget about fluorescence and stick with none to blue, faint blue grades, never yellow, never orange. Five, you'll hear me say this again. When in doubt, view that diamond in multiple lighting environments. If they do not let you do it, go to another store. Expert series. All right, now let's move beyond the 4Cs. This is an area where you're probably not going to be able to find a lot